Your car is dying right now, and you cannot feel it. There is a sensor under your hood that gets dirty so slowly, so quietly, that most drivers never notice until real damage is done. No warning light, no obvious symptom, just a slow bleed of power and fuel economy that gets worse every single month. Mechanics see this every day. They replace parts that were never broken while the real culprit stays hidden. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which sensor fails first and how to fix it yourself for almost nothing. Number 10. The fuel level sensor. Your fuel gauge is lying to you right now. This sensor lives submerged in gasoline for the entire life of your vehicle. No mechanic inspects it, no service interval covers it. Inside your tank, a float rides on the fuel attached to a metal arm. That arm slides across a resistive track, changing electrical resistance as fuel rises and falls. Your dashboard reads that resistance and moves the needle. Over time, the contacts oxidize. Varnish coats the track. Dead spots form where the signal cuts out. Now your gauge shows a quarter tank when you are running on fumes. It gets stuck. It bounces randomly. A woman in Florida called a tow truck 3 times in one summer. Her gauge showed fuel every time. The tank was empty every time. 15 minutes of cleaning would have saved her over $1,000, but this sensor only lies to your gauge. The next one can destroy your engine while showing perfect readings on the dash. Number 9. The oil pressure sensor. The red oil pressure warning light is the most terrifying alert on your dashboard. When it comes on, you have seconds before catastrophic damage. But that light depends entirely on one small sensor that can fail silently. The sensor threads into your engine block. Inside is a diaphragm that flexes under oil pressure. When pressure is healthy, the warning light stays off. When pressure drops dangerously low, the light illuminates. Here is the problem. The sensor's tiny inlet passage gets clogged with sludge and debris from old oil. Now your engine could be starving for oil while the dashboard shows everything is fine. A technician in Arizona documented an engine that seized at 72,000 miles. The oil light never came on. When they pulled the sensor, the inlet was completely blocked. A $15 sensor destroyed an engine worth thousands. But oil pressure only matters when the engine runs. The next sensor controls whether your transmission even knows you are moving. Number 8. The vehicle speed sensor. When your speedometer jumps around, your transmission shifts strangely, or cruise control randomly shuts off, most people assume something expensive is broken. But the real problem is often a $20 sensor covered in road grime. The vehicle speed sensor mounts on your transmission. It has a magnetic tip that reads a spinning toothed ring, generating pulses that tell your computer exactly how fast you are moving. Your computer uses this data for shift timing, fuel cut during deceleration, cruise control, and traction management. When contaminated, everything connected to vehicle speed goes haywire. Metallic debris sticks to the magnetic tip. The pulses become irregular. Your computer thinks you are stopped while rolling at 60 miles per hour. A driver in Michigan spent $1,400 on transmission diagnostics. A fourth mechanic wiped the sensor clean in 10 minutes. Problem solved? But there is a sensor that gets contaminated even faster, just from air passing through your engine. Number 7. The intake air temperature sensor. This sensor is so small most drivers have no idea it exists. But every time your engine calculates how much fuel to inject, it asks this sensor one question. How hot is the air coming in? Cold air is denser with more oxygen. Hot air is thinner. Your computer needs this data constantly because oxygen content determines how much fuel to inject for efficient combustion. Inside the sensor is a thermistor that changes resistance based on temperature. Cold air produces high resistance. Hot air produces low resistance. The computer adjusts fueling accordingly. When oil mist or dust coats the sensor tip, it reads wrong. It might tell the computer the air is hotter than reality, causing a lean mixture, or colder, dumping excess fuel. The symptoms are subtle. Slight power loss that never goes away. Fuel economy dropping for no reason. Cleaning takes 60 seconds, but most people never touch it because it never throws a code. The next temperature sensor controls something far more critical. When it lies, damage spreads everywhere. Number 6. The engine coolant temperature sensor. This small sensor is one of the most powerful inputs in your engine management system. When it fails, almost nothing works correctly. When you start a cold engine, the computer enriches the fuel mixture and raises idle speed. As the engine warms, those adjustments fade. The computer makes these decisions based entirely on what this sensor reports. The failure is gradual. Corrosion builds up on the sensor tip. Scale deposits form. Now it starts lying. It might tell the computer the engine is cold when it has been running for 20 minutes. The consequences spread everywhere. Fuel consumption increases. Cold starts become rough. Cooling fans run at wrong times. Long-term engine wear accelerates. A shop in Colorado diagnosed a truck running rich for over a year. The coolant sensor was reporting 170 degrees, while actual temperature was 212. A $19 sensor had been dumping extra fuel for 12,000 miles. The next sensor protects your engine from destroying itself. When it fails, you will not hear the warning until it is too late. Number 5. The knock sensor. Bolted to your engine block is a microphone for your cylinders. Its job is to listen for one sound: the sound of your engine tearing itself apart from the inside. Engine knock happens when fuel ignites at the wrong time, creating pressure spikes that hammer pistons, damage bearings, and crack cylinder walls. Severe knock can destroy an engine in minutes. The knock sensor converts vibration into electrical signals. When it detects knock, the computer immediately retards timing and enriches the mixture to stop damage. When the sensor gets coated with oil or grime, its sensitivity drops. Now real knock goes undetected and your engine operates on the edge of destruction. Or false signals make the computer constantly pull timing, leaving the engine feeling weak and sluggish. Shops have documented engines that felt worn out transform into smooth runners after simply cleaning the knock sensor, mounting surface, and reinstalling it to correct torque. The next sensor wears out differently. It has moving parts inside, and every time you touch the gas pedal, you are grinding it down. Number 4. The throttle position sensor. Every time you press the accelerator, you are asking your engine how much power you want. The throttle position sensor delivers that answer with precision, and inside is a mechanical component that wears more every single day. The sensor mounts on the throttle body. Inside is a resistive track with a wiper arm that slides along it as the throttle opens and closes, changing voltage output proportionally. At idle, it outputs around 0.5 volts. At wide open throttle, 4.5 volts. The computer uses this to decide fuel quantity, shift points, and acceleration mode. That wiper arm creates microscopic wear every time you move the pedal. Eventually, dead spots form where the track is worn through, usually at positions you use most. A delivery driver in Atlanta thought his truck had transmission problems. It hesitated at the exact same pedal position every time. A scan tool showed the signal dropping out at that angle. A $40 sensor solved what he feared was a $2,000 repair. The next sensor measures chemistry. When it fails, your engine cannot balance the most critical equation of all. Number 3. The oxygen sensor. Mounted in your exhaust is the only sensor that measures the result of combustion. Every other sensor tells the computer what goes in. This one tells it what came out. The oxygen sensor measures oxygen remaining in exhaust gases. At the ideal ratio of 14.7 parts air to 1 part fuel, it outputs around 0.45 volts. Lean mixtures drop lower, rich mixtures rise higher. The computer adjusts fuel injection thousands of times per minute based on this feedback. When contaminated, the system falls apart. Lead from bad fuel, silicone from gasket sealers, phosphorus from burning oil. These coat the ceramic element and poison its response. The sensor becomes sluggish, responding slowly instead of switching rapidly. The engine oscillates between rich and lean, never finding balance. Fuel consumption increases, power drops, emissions testing fails. Owners blame spark plugs and catalytic converters for years. Here's something most people do not realize. You can actually clean an oxygen sensor without removing it. There are 2 methods that work. The first method is the easiest. Use a fuel system cleaner that is specifically labeled safe for oxygen sensors and catalytic converters. Pour it into your fuel tank when the tank is about 1/4 full. Then dry for 20 to 30 minutes. keeping your RPM between 2,000 and 3,000. This helps the cleaner circulate through combustion and gradually burn off deposits on the sensor. This method is slow. It can take a few tanks before you see real results. But it works well for light contamination and regular maintenance. The second method is more effective for heavy carbon buildup. You need a sensor-safe carburetor cleaner or intake valve cleaner. Find a vacuum line connected to your intake manifold. Disconnect it and insert a straw. With the engine running at around 2,000 RPM, spray short bursts of cleaner through the straw into the vacuum line. The cleaner gets pulled into the intake, burns during combustion, and passes over the oxygen sensor in the exhaust stream. The high heat burns off carbon deposits on the sensor tip. Spray for about 30 seconds at a time, wait, then repeat until you have used about half the can. One important note. This vacuum method works best on the upstream oxygen sensor, the one before the catalytic converter. The downstream sensor sees less direct exhaust flow and is harder to clean this way. If your sensor is physically damaged, cracked, or contaminated with oil or coolant, cleaning will not help. You will need a full replacement. But if it is just dirty, these methods can save you serious money. But sometimes the sensor is perfectly fine. The real problem does not appear on any parts list but causes more headaches than any sensor ever made. Number 2. Sensor connectors and wiring harnesses. This is the twist most people never see coming. After hundreds of dollars in diagnostics and multiple sensor replacements, the problem was never the sensor. It was the wires carrying the signal. Every sensor needs 3 things: stable power, solid ground, clean signal path. When any becomes compromised, the sensor cannot work no matter how new it is. Over years of driving, vibration loosens pins. Heat cracks insulation. Moisture creates corrosion. Wires break internally while the outer jacket looks perfect. The symptoms mimic sensor failure perfectly. Intermittent codes, fluctuating readings, problems that come and go. Mechanics replace sensors. The problem returns. A shop in Virginia spent 3 days chasing an oxygen sensor code. They replaced both sensors. Finally, a technician found one wire with severed copper inside intact insulation. A $5 repair fixed what cost $280 in unnecessary sensors. But there is still one sensor left. The one that fails most often. The one almost nobody cleans correctly. And the one that transforms how your engine runs. Number 1. The mass airflow sensor. This is the sensor that inspired this entire video. It fails more often than any other sensor in modern engines. It almost never triggers a warning light. And the way most people clean it actually destroys it faster. The mass airflow sensor sits between your air filter and throttle body. Every molecule of air entering your engine passes over it first. It measures exact air mass so the computer can calculate precise fuel injection. Inside is an ultra-thin platinum wire, thinner than a human hair. This wire is heated to a constant temperature. As air flows across it, the wire cools proportionally. The computer measures how much current is needed to maintain temperature and converts that into air mass data. The problem begins invisibly. Microscopic dust slips past the air filter. Oil vapor from aftermarket oiled filters coats the wire. Contamination accumulates molecule by molecule. You cannot see it, but it changes the thermal properties completely. Now the sensor lies. It reports less air, causing lean mixtures that lose power and run hot. Or it reports more air, flooding the engine with fuel that destroys catalytic converters. The symptoms are maddeningly vague. Sluggish acceleration. Fuel economy dropping month after month. Rough idle that comes and goes. Most drivers blame age or spark plugs. Mechanics chase oxygen sensor codes. The mass airflow sensor sits quietly in the intake, causing all of it. Here is where real damage happens. Someone decides to clean it. They grab carburetor cleaner or brake cleaner. They spray directly onto the element. In that moment, they destroy a sensor that might have been saved. These cleaners strip the protective coating from the platinum wire. Residues bake on during operation. The sensor goes blind permanently. A customer in Texas cleaned his mass airflow sensor every oil change with brake cleaner. After 4 months, his engine felt like it lost 30 horsepower. The platinum wire had turned brown. One wrong product killed a $450 sensor. Here is the only safe way to clean it. Use only cleaner labeled specifically for mass airflow sensors. Spray from 6 to 8 inches away in short bursts. Never touch the wire. Let it air dry 15 to 20 minutes. Never blow it with compressed air. To test if yours is failing, unplug it while the engine runs. If idle improves, the sensor has been sending bad data. For precise testing, use a multimeter on the signal wire. At idle, voltage should read 1 to 1.2 volts. At 2,500 RPM, around 2.5 volts. At wide open throttle, 4 to 4.5 volts. With an OBD2 scanner, check live MAF data in grams per second. At idle, it should read approximately 1 gram per second for every liter of engine displacement. Higher readings suggest a vacuum leak. Lower readings mean contamination or a clogged air filter. Now let me explain the error codes you might see related to the mass airflow sensor. Understanding these can save you from replacing parts you do not need. P0100 means general mass airflow sensor malfunction. The computer is not receiving a proper signal. This could be a wiring issue, loose connector, or dirty sensor. P0101 means the sensor is operating out of range. The signal is either too high or too low, causing the computer to miscalculate fuel. Often this is just contamination. P0102 means signal too low. This usually happens when the sensor is heavily contaminated or the power supply is weak. Check the connector first. P0103 means signal too high. This can occur when a wire is shorted or when there is an air leak in the MAF housing causing false readings. P0104 means intermittent or erratic signal. The car might run fine sometimes, then feel weak with unstable idle, usually caused by a loose connector or internally broken wire. Here's what most people miss. Codes P0171 and P0174 System 2 lean are often blamed on oxygen sensors or fuel injectors. But in many cases, the mass airflow sensor is under reporting airflow, causing the computer to inject too little fuel. Before replacing any sensor when you see these codes, clean the mass airflow sensor properly, check the air filter, inspect the intake hoses for leaks, and verify the connector is tight. In most cases, the problem clears up without spending a dime on parts. This one sensor controls more of your engine's behavior than most drivers realize. When clean, everything works. When dirty, nothing feels right. Now you know how to test it. Clean it properly, read the codes, and recognize when replacement is the only option. Before you start cleaning any sensor, here's what you need. First, a dedicated mass airflow sensor cleaner. This is non-negotiable. Do not substitute carburetor cleaner, brake cleaner, or throttle body cleaner. They will destroy the sensor. CRC and Permatex both make affordable options available at any auto parts store. Second, electronic contact cleaner. This is safe for connectors, the intake air temperature sensor, and other electrical components. It evaporates quickly without leaving residue. Third, dielectric grease. Apply a thin coat inside connectors after cleaning to prevent future corrosion and moisture intrusion. This alone prevents half of the wiring problems we discussed. Fourth, a sensor-safe fuel system cleaner for oxygen sensor maintenance. Look for products that specifically say safe for oxygen sensors and catalytic converters on the label. Chevron Techron and Royal Purple Max Clean are trusted options. These 4 products cost less than $40 total. That is cheaper than a single sensor replacement and will cover maintenance for years. Now let me wrap this up with what you need to remember. That is the sensor that fails first. The one almost nobody cleans. And the one quietly robbing power and wasting fuel in millions of vehicles right now. Every sensor on this list can be tested, cleaned, or replaced without spending a fortune. Most problems start with contamination, not failure. A few dollars in 15 minutes can transform an engine that feels tired into one that runs like new. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Drop a comment telling me which sensor surprised you most, and send this to anyone whose car has been running rough for months. That mystery might finally be solved.